Welcome to F1 or F Off, your audio pit stop for F1 news, interviews, and race reviews. I'm your host, Gabe.
And I'm Idris.
What's up, Idris?
Yo.
We got some crazy rain out here in Portland. I think all that rain that was supposed to show up in Canada just ended up migrating over. We got hail, and it was super raining.
You guys got hail?
Yeah, we had hail. And what was
you just had hail a few weeks ago, right?
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, we had it again, and it was what's crazy is there was a crack of thunder. It was and then it was just hail for a solid probably a solid 2 to 4 minutes or so.
Sure.
It was enough to accumulate on the ground to where it looked like it snowed. It's the rain that I know everybody probably would have wanted for this Canadian Grand Prix that we witnessed.
Yeah.
Got in qualifying, but they didn't get in the race.
Yeah. That was kind of fun. The thing is, I love wet qualies and just wet weekends in general, right? Because it's really just driver skill, driver talent, that sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, it kind of sucked that was taken away from us at the last moment. But it was still an exciting, fun race to watch. Some good battles on track, some good things to see.
Yeah, I think so. It's like we've said before a bunch of times, there are exciting things to witness in the race. Although I will say, did you notice on Twitter, NBC Sports was if you want to witness race cars passing each other on track, then watch the Indy Grand Prix this weekend. And I'm just oh snap, oh snap, oh snap, oh snap. That's passive aggressive.
Damn.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Here's the thing. We already know
Shots
that
fired, man.
Yeah, shots fired, but we know that F1 has a lot of passing that happens. It's just not all televised. And I think it's also too just people care more about what's happening up front than they do anywhere else. And I don't understand why that is. I feel like in IndyCar, if you win or if you don't, if there's hard racing on tracks, even if it's in the midfield, people get excited about it. I don't know why they don't get excited about it for F1. It's they're just, maybe it's because when Max shows up and just dominates, then suddenly it's it just takes the wind out of everybody's sails, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, but it's kind of human nature though, right? We only really care about the people who are at the top who are winning, unfortunately.
I agree. Yeah, it is human nature. It's weird. It's I feel like we want to see people who succeed fail, even somewhere in our brains. I mean, unless we like the person, then it's we always want to see them succeed. But if it's somebody who's just a little skeevy, we're just oh. Lauren was watching with me, and she was just Max would be flying past the wall of champions. She's hit it, come on, oh. Or break your car now.
Right. It's it's funny because on the flip side, right? If it's someone that you want winning all the time, but they never win, then it's just the exact opposite problem, right? Like Charles Leclerc. Mm-hmm. We never see this man have any kind of success,
Charles.
And don't worry, we'll talk about Ferrari.
Well, first things first, let's do a little bit of background on the track. Idris, do you want to guide us through that?
Track background.
You saying first things first just made me think of Iggy Azalea. First things first, I'm not running. So, welcome to the track background for episode 24, where we talk about the Canadian Grand Prix. So, we got the Formula One Pirelli Grand Prix du Canada. Du, for those who are wondering, is the French way of saying. I think it's okay. So it's an article. It's either to in or at. That's where you use a, or a la, or o, and du or de or du la would be from, of, or about, if I remember correctly. I took 4 years of French in high school, so
Bonjour.
So the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Gilles Villeneuve,
yes. In Montreal, Canada. First race here was held in 1978. This is typically an afternoon race, and the F1 driver with the most wins is Michael Schumacher with 7. And a couple of fun facts about this track. There have been 5 eras of the track as far as the track design is concerned, right? So they've changed the length or the track distance every single time. And those eras are from 1978 to 86. Then you have 88 to 93, 94 to 95, 96 to 2001, and 2002 to the current day.
Wow,
so,
they just couldn't decide what they wanted to do with this track. And they're just I don't know, man. It should be shorter. No, it's longer. It's next year. Because 93, 94, 95, 96. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, they couldn't pick
get your shit together, man.
They were drunk on poutine.
You need to get some Tilka up in there to fix this stuff out. Throw some noodles on a plate.
And another fun fact about the Gilles Villeneuve circuit. The island the track was built on is man-made from rocks pulled out of like the actual subterranean soil of the ground, right, to build Montreal's subway system, which is I think one of the largest in the world.
Yeah, I think it was in like 1965 too.
That was a good year.
So
remember those years?
1965. You know, the Beatles, put out Rubber Soul, and that was a good year, I guess.
Here's a quick question. Give me a good budget album name version of Rubber Soul. Bounty Spirit.
I would say like Squishy Spirit, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. You put me on the spot there for that one. Although I did have a joke that we got some cocktails at a place called Total Wine, I think it was called, or something. And it says like, spirits, beer, wine. And I just thought, like, what if you walked into a liquor store and it was kind of dark and sort of spooky, and like you go and you're just like, is anybody here? And then a ghost shows up and they're just like, hey there, and you're like, ah. It's like, why are you? There's ghosts in here. Yeah, spirits and beer and wine. Like, like, I just love the idea of like a ghost. It's like they took spirits literally.
Yeah.
Anyway, Montreal. It's such a beautiful track. You see all the trees,
beautiful
in the park
city
area.
Too.
It's a beautiful place. I really, really hope to go to this race at some point in my life, because it was, it's a very, very beautiful looking park, and they've got a mascot. They got a gopher, like a groundhog.
That's what's up.
That is what's up. He has a name, doesn't he? Isn't it like Gary or something?
Or maybe Jetty.
Jelly. Oh, Jelly the groundhog.
Hello, bonjour, ça va? Oui, ça va, comme ça.
It is a very beautiful circuit, although during qualifying it was, I guess you could arguably say, less beautiful because there was a tremendous amount of rain.
Yeah, like lots.
That just whooped in. And interestingly enough, it sort of had a similar thing that happened in Miami, because there's not a lot of support racing on this track typically throughout the year. And so it didn't have a lot of rubbered in surface. So when the rain came, it kind of kind of washed it away, sort of like what happened with Miami. And so they were talking about during the race it being a pretty green track. But yeah, during qualifying it was more blue wet than it was green. That definitely made for a really interesting session.
I was going to say, we talking tires there? Because they should have been using the full blues, honestly, at a certain point. The intermediates were not.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the intermediates were. Well, I guess it depends, right? I mean, if you're Ferrari, who cares, right? Just let the drivers fend for themselves.
What are these tires? Oh, sorry, that was a mistake. I couldn't believe that when I heard that. So Q1 was a pretty interesting session because it had rained just before.
Yeah.
And the circuit was sort of in the process of starting to dry out. And Zhou Guanyu's Alfa Romeo had mechanical problems, which brought out a weird red flag, because they red flagged it, even though he pulled into a little area to slip road to be pulled out. But I think it was a software problem, because he managed to get the car going and he was just barely sort of trucking along. He was able to get back to the pits, and I think they basically just hit what's the reset button for Alt Delete,
Control Alt Delete.
Control Alt Delete on the car, essentially get it going again. But it was sort of the damp conditions, but it was sort of drying. And you had this weird scenario where a lot of drivers were trying to put in those fast times because the track was drying out. And it dries quick. And so it evolves really, really quickly. So you got a lot of these guys, their times were just falling and falling and falling. And it was a very, very hectic sort of first session in that way, where they were trying to, get in their times as much as they could. But, unfortunately, both the AlphaTauris, Pierre and Logan Sargent, missed out in Q1. Pierre, unfortunately, because he was actually impeded by a Ferrari. They just love sitting in the middle of the track, don't they?
And did you hear what he said after quali 2? He was like, well, some of us, we were impeded. We were all trying to just get in front of one another, and I was impeded several times. And, we have to think about what's fair for some people to be penalized, and what's fair for others to not be. And it's like,
it is just
messy.
Yes, it is messy is a word to describe it. Yeah. Because we shouldn't have to be doing this every time with with the qualifying. It's just like it shouldn't have to be this like they really need to figure out a workaround for this format. Whether it's sending a certain chunk of cars out at the same time, like maybe they just divide the track in half, right? And they just have half, like one half of the runners go out, the other half of the runners, like one from each team, go out, and then the second from each team go out and do their thing, just to kind of limit traffic. Doesn't sound sexy, but it, like, as long as everybody gets a fast run in, right?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the thing is, we want to see people just go the fastest they can, and that means you will have no one else on the track, right? So just like you said, it's not sexy, but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and Sonoda was given a 3 grid spot penalty for impeding. I mean, honestly, there was impeding all over this race weekend. It wasn't even just in qualifying. It was getting in each other's way.
Yep.
So Q2 comes around, starting to dry out a bit. Alex Albon pulled a very, very good move. What did Alex Albon do?
Give it up to the Williams pit wall for making that call. They're like, hey, we can get like a really nice hot lap in and definitely get into Q3 and get Albon up really high, which is the right move to make.
Yeah.
And I think it was this is the new Williams TP, right? James Valls, right? Yeah, James Valls. Yeah, formerly Mercedes. Yeah, and he killed it. This is great to see. Like, he comes in and he is making some really excellent calls, or maybe not. Maybe he's not the one making it, but the team under him, they have that trust and leadership from above, right? From him. To make these kind of calls, and that was so cool to see. Like, that was, I mean, going faster than Max, right? Granted, like, weather was the effect there, but still.
Yeah. Well, and that's a funny thing that people have to keep in mind too. This is not all dry running, right? This is like some of these laps that were put out were on damp. They're on intermediate tires, so it's like the Williams is going to be way faster if it's running on slicks. But it was still like I think a brilliant stroke of genius for strategy. I think it was the right call.
Absolutely,
it's a risk. I mean, obviously, if the track is still greasy, it could have completely backfired. But I think that just looking at the track as I was watching it, there was enough of a dry line forming through most of this track that I was like, slicks would probably be okay. Yeah. And honestly, you think about it too, those 6 tires, when they get up to temperature, they're really hot.
Yeah.
So running over water, like
it's an instant drop.
They're going to instantly, like any small vapor left on the track, any small moisture left on the track that's not like a puddle is mostly going to get either chucked out in some direction, but also just evaporated immediately because of the heat and the friction. Great job from Alex Albon. Really, really good.
Yeah. Talk about a high risk, high reward.
Exactly. You had another there's another impeding happening, and this was from Stroll at his home race. He ended up getting a 3-place grid penalty. That was like just the tip of the iceberg of impediments. And at this point too, once again we had another issue. This time well, it was Charles, poor Charles. He apparently asked for slick tires and he didn't get them. So why
do they hate him?
I don't know.
Why do they bring drivers on just to beat them?
I don't
like with a baton and say they're like, hey, can I just get some tires? No.
He's like Oliver, please sir, can I have some tires? What? Like, please sir, can I have some more? Oh my god, yeah, poor Charles. I do not know how much more he has to give. I don't know how much more he can take. This poor guy. I mean,
it's tough to watch. It's really, really hard to watch.
It is very hard to watch. Poor guy. Maybe he should just, take a break, do his DJ career for a minute, and just come back ready to just, I don't know. I don't think he deserves to leave. I don't think he should be going. Ferrari needs to get their shit together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
the DJ career of Chuck Leclerc will definitely take precedent.
Is that his name?
I'm just making that up.
Oh, you're making that up? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Chuck Leclerc, and it's just like a duck face, like a minimalist duck.
Charles, the monogas tank.
He competed for the championship
last year. Let's move on to Q3, because Q3 had a few interesting things, but unfortunately the rain decided to show up again.
Yep.
And before that happened, Verstappen had set the pace. Alonso was, just behind him. And then right as things were really starting to heat up, Oscar Piastri hits the wall. And that red flags the session. And what's a really interesting thing here is that Hülkenberg banged in his time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was put up, and he was P2.
Yep.
And here's the thing: when I was watching the race too, like his time came in, and then like a half a second later, it said red flag. And so, from the commentator's perspective, and from all of our perspectives, he got it in before the red flag happened. But apparently, there's a delay. Yeah. So the red flag came out before he finished his lap, and so he ended up actually getting a grid spot penalty, which is unfortunate for Hülkenberg. But I think here's the thing though: I think that he would not have kept that place had the session not rained out. You know what I mean? It was a good effort. It was a good time.
Absolutely, yeah.
But as we were seeing, like the track was drying out, but the minute it started raining, and so essentially what ended up happening was they cleared Piastri, went back out on track, but the rain had come in so much that they knew nobody was going to improve.
Yeah.
And so they ended up pretty much just calling it, which rain can be good as long as it's consistent. I almost feel like the most ideal situation for rain in a qualifying session is that it rains heavily in Q1.
Yeah.
And then it just slowly dries out by the time you get to Q3. And then like Q3 would be where people gamble on slicks. That's like the perfect qualifying session in the rain is exactly that. So essentially we started out with a very interesting top row, which was Max 1, Alonso P2, and then Hamilton was P3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Well, actually, I think Verstappen, Alonso, Hamilton. After all the penalties are having doled out, then you had Russell, Hulk down to P5, Ocon, Norris, Piastri, Albon, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Magnussen, Bottas, Gasly, Stroll, De Vries, Sargent, Tsunoda, and Zhou.
Yeah. Watching it, I was like, okay, I was like a little bummed that, it was just sort of a rain session. But at the same time, I was hoping that it was going to be rain for the race, and it wasn't. So once the race came around and we saw that it was dry, I mean, what were your thoughts when you saw that? What was your first, just like, okay, this is going to be the Max show?
No, I think given the fact that I think Aston Martin had some upgrades this weekend, right? I was curious to see how they would function. I don't know. They've been talking a big game about the upgrades that they've been bringing on. So it's always just a thing of, things could happen, right? The Red Bull's good, yeah, but it's not like Red Bull is impervious, right? I think the weakest part of their game, specifically Max, has just been his starts, right? And that's where you can kind of get him because of it seems like it's a shifting issue. Like something's not grabbing properly in the clutch and allowing him to shift gears like as smoothly or as quickly or as easily as others. Right. But all of that was kind of foiled. I mean, let's just go right into the race. All that was foiled instantly for Alonso to be a threat towards Max because your boy Lewis just came in like hot off that start. That was wild watching that back. That was great. Yeah, like he was really, really hungry for that. And, I got to say, I love seeing Lewis and Fernando being in equal machinery because they are just trading blows, just throwing haymakers at each other, and they're not giving up on one another. I think it's because the history the two have, but I think there's also like a healthy respect there too. It's not it's not like it's like I hate this guy and I'm gonna beat him. It's really like he's really good, and I have to pull out all the punches and drive with I got to drive to survive,
Right. Yeah, no, honestly, I agree. I even Crofty, I think, was even just like, if we take Max out of this race, this would be an awesome battle for 1 and 2.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I mean, he's not wrong. My whole thought was, ooh, like it's our boys, they racing. And they had a really good back and forth. I think that, well, for one thing, the Mercedes upgrades are working.
I think so.
I mean, even the fact that they were like leading the sessions in the free practice. And I think that on a track like this too, with a lot of open speed, I think their aero package has really improved. But apparently Aston Martin brought a lot of upgrades as well. But I guess Alonso had a lot of braking problems. His rear brakes apparently were going bad. And Max hit a bird. And so apparently that affected his car.
Dude, could you imagine driving the car at the speeds they're driving? Like, do you know what that would sound like and what that must feel like.
Well, and yeah, I mean, ooh, man, like I've hit a bird driving before.
What? I've never hit a bird.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I was driving across country heading to move to Portland. My brother and I were in Kansas, I think. Kansas is wide open, so I don't understand what this bird was doing. Because I'm just like, dude, there's no trees, there's no buildings. There's literally infinite amount of air around you, and you just fly in front of my car.
Man,
it hit like the front right corner and like just smacked on the windshield, and I'm just like, oh,
that's
there wasn't anything I could do. I couldn't avoid it.
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing you could do, and there's nothing Max could do.
No, nothing Max could do. But
but
yeah, I
you
guess
heard it here first, guys. Red Bull hates birds.
Red Bull it gives you wings, but not all the time.
Now you get how the sausage is made behind the scenes. Look at how we get you your wings.
Red Bull giveth and Red Bull taketh away.
But yeah, so Alonso and Lewis had a good scrap. There was a little incident in the pit lane where it was an unsafe release, but ultimately there wasn't any penalty for that, so they were able to keep going. How much of that do you think should be blamed on the drivers?
About releasing, because they don't really have like a good view as far as everything is concerned. What's going on behind them? So if anything, penalties should be really like fines on those kinds of things towards I mean, I just don't think that. I think first off, like Fernando sold it a bit. Like I would, right? I mean. Yeah, because it looked okay. Yeah, when he came, I would sell it too, of course. Yeah. Like I do this in sports when I play. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna do something like a little, like if you're gonna do something that could be considered gray, I'm gonna like react to it so I can get some kind of advantage.
It's like
part of the game.
It's like, what's that meme where the guy's just like, oh my god, I was so scared, I thought I was gonna die. Like his friends are holding him, like it's like that, like Alonso in the car.
Yeah.
Or they do that in like European football too, right? I think remember when we were teenagers, that was one of my favorite things to do when we were hanging out, is we would watch like really bad fouls in soccer, flops, and dudes just like barely touching a referee falling over like my leg.
I mean, but like the chief flopper though would be, I think, considered to be Neymar Jr. from Brazil. Anytime there's a World Cup, like you just wait for the compilation of his flops at the end of that
and so they notice nobody's looking, and then they just get up and just keep going like,
dude, and they just keep rolling and rolling. It's like, how are you rolling for 25 feet? Like that's not how momentum works, buddy.
Right. Speaking of momentum and flopping, let's talk about Ocon's spoiler.
Wobble baby.
I just, that was dangerous looking at it. I was like,
it's crazy.
But they already ruled about this. Apparently, it's up to teams to call the car in if something is dangerous. The FIA is apparently not allowed to do that.
And that looked dangerous.
Yeah, it looked dangerous.
Imagine if that comes off.
I mean,
something that people don't consider is like conservation of momentum and inertia. Like if that comes off at the speeds that they're traveling, the damage that could do to someone behind them would be like catastrophic.
Yeah.
Like that whole structure was about to come off. It's one thing if, there's no one running behind you for like 15, 20 seconds, but that with Norris right behind him, man, that was,
yeah.
a bit too much, in my opinion.
It was a bit. It was scary, and I was just thinking, like, if that had come off, like, what would have happened to Ocon or even Norris following him? Like,
right.
That's how Massa got his injury. It was a part flew off of the back of a car and like hit his helmet, like it was a spring or something.
Yes.
I mean, oof. Thankfully, he survived.
Yeah, he survived. Yeah, he's fine. Right. He ended up continuing to race for Ferrari and then went to Williams. Right.
Yeah. Which I predicted actually, and I thought it was a really good move for Williams.
Yeah.
Although it didn't, completely put them back on top. But hey, maybe Albon will.
Yeah,
he's
because the way
Albon's
been driving, it's crazy. Speaking of Williams, Sargent didn't make the cut like almost immediately. Like he had to. I mean, I think he
had to park it.
Yeah. What took Sargent out? It was
mechanical.
It was mechanical.
They just panicked. They got some extreme warning on the thing that told him he had to pull the car out.
What an aggressive message, dude! Like critical.
Yeah,
like,
basically. It was like race ending, sort of thing. Which honestly, we don't really see all that often in this era. I've noticed. Like, I have not seen. It's there's very few times you see like just a big plume of smoke and like a fire coming out the back of the car. I mean, we see it a couple of times, but
Yeah.
not as often as it used to, which I think is a good thing.
It's because you don't have like the engines being built in the back of some dude's garage while he's like throwing back some Coronas.
You think you think that the computer machined precision has kind of made it so that the tolerance are exactly perfect?
Oh yeah, I mean that's
things. Yeah.
Easily a part of it. Yeah, I mean that's what's gotten us to this point.
Speaking of things going kablamo or kaboom,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
what was I going to talk about? What do you think? Because I could go two ways with this. I was thinking Russell hitting the wall.
Oh man, and I was thinking of DeVries just not knowing how to turn.
Well, yeah, he locked up, and I think like he just went straight and
what was that?
I have no idea. I don't even think it's like he didn't even attempt to make the turn, and then like poor Magnussen just like he just got blocked. Like he couldn't even make the turn. He just got hooked by a DeVries. He's like, "No, pal, you're coming with me, man."
Oh my god, it was wild. Like, what was that? What was that? DeVries, I feel bad for this guy. I think he needs a reset after the summer break. He needs to like just go cool off.
He might not get a chance.
That would be really unfortunate because I think the talent and skill is there. I think F1 is just a different type of pressure cooker versus Formula E, right? And I think he needs first off support and a mentor on the team, right? Yeah. Like Franz Tost is leaving, right? So you know the guy that he could talk to there is about to leave, and I'm sure he's like, "Oh, you'll be fine, guy," and then like pat on the back, you know?
Right? Yeah.
Now Helmut Marko just like firing mortar shells, like
I would be curious to see which team has the most turnaround on average in a season, in its history.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can't really think of it all that much. Like I know, like Ferrari dumped Alan Prost half partway through a season, but Red Bull has gone through so many drivers in quick succession over a period of years. Like it seems really, we should probably put some numbers together for that because I feel like that would be really interesting to look at, and it also just would show the nature of Red Bull as an organization. It's like you guys got to figure that out, man.
But it works for them, right?
Right.
It works for the empire.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Graham Tarkin just keeps saying racist stuff and swapping drivers around. So
the mean streets of Mexico really, really sharpen Checo's ability to race and drive. What are you talking about, man?
Jesus. Well, we should say Russell, that. Right? Let's talk about George. George, I was really surprised that he was able to carry on.
Absolutely,
I feel really bad for George because he did a 1-2 whack on the wall, chasing Fernando down. Which, hey, I get it. Fernando Alonso is one of those guys that can just put his car on such a raggedy edge that if you cannot match his skill set, then you're just going to hit it. And I just think George pushed a little too much.
Yeah.
And he just, clipped the edge, clipped the corner, and it was just a nose hit and then a tail hit. Popped his tire, and he managed to get back to the pits. And, man, he fought his way back up to like 8th.
Yeah, he was doing a great job. Great
until
recovery.
They had to retire it, which was, such a bummer.
Yeah.
But, I think it still proves that the Mercedes has some pace now.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
No, they're doing a good job. They are, I think, as far as development of the cars per team, I think they have probably made the most ground up since the beginning of the season.
Yeah. I think so.
And maybe
they're most improved.
McLaren might be up there in the conversation too, because it was good to see both Maccas, as Martin Brundle likes to say, in Q3.
Right.
And they ended up finishing okay in the standings, I think.
Except for Norris got that penalty.
Yeah, he had that penalty, but I think at the end of the race, Piastri was P11, Norris was P13, but he was in the points until he got knocked down, and then Bottas ended up coming in.
Right. I think that penalty for Norris is a little unfair because I don't think he was deliberately trying to impede drivers. Because what happened was there was something that people always do under safety car. Well, they do often when a team wants to double stack and they have both their drivers on the same next to each other, like in the same positions. They build up a gap between the two so that when they come into the pits, they can just stack and just get them out and go, so that the person behind them is not sitting there. So basically, Norris was slowing down to let Piastri get ahead of him a little bit to build that gap, so that when they came in to pit, they were able to just double stack, get in, get out, and it was fine. But apparently he slowed down the cars behind him into an extent to where it like kind of messed with their race strategy, which I think was more or less just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, rather than him just like deliberately trying to impede anybody. So I feel like it was a little That's a little rude. I don't think it was necessarily. I think it was like kind of a harsh penalty. I'm almost wondering honestly if they should just get like, instead of doing like a 5-second penalty, they should just get like one position. You know what I mean? Like a one position penalty. Gotcha. I wonder if that would be more effective, because it's not as severe as like a 5-second would be, but it's still enough of a penalty, and it could be enough to knock somebody out of the points.
Right.
You know what I mean, if they're like running 10th or something, you know.
Yeah.
Well, Idris, who won this race? We'll give you a drum roll, please.
It was Max Verstappen. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So your boy Max Verstappen won. Excellent race. I mean, excellent race given that he had a couple of issues. He was nursing some things, it seemed like, but it didn't matter.
Bird lodged in his car.
Yeah, he had a bird lodged in there. But that really did not seem to make any kind of negative impact on his performance. I think what we can do now is talk about some of the losers of the race, and I think it's time for this week's episode of Mamma Mia Scuderia.
Stay out! Fuck! Why? What did Watson do? No, please, I said please, to wait and discuss with me.
Wait, what are these tires?
Sorry, it's a mistake.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with Scuderia. It seems to be a thing of strategy. It seems to be a thing of personalities, a thing of ego, of pride.
It was just I mean, there was some dangerous impeding on track. Like, that was really scary.
Yeah.
And like, it's a communication problem. I mean, really, it is. Like, they're not telling them where things are.
Yes.
You know, Charles is really irritated. He was really irritated.
He should be.
I mean, you know, not only was it like they have Carlos not knowing where guys are on track. Like, he's literally in the middle of the track. Like, you move to the side, man. You know people are coming through. I think like Jenson Button, when he started, him and Kimi Räikkönen, when they were doing like NASCAR races.
Yeah.
The one thing that surprised them was that they had spotters, because they have spotters in NASCAR and in IndyCar.
Yes.
Like, people who are watching the track that have their direct radio, and they're saying like, on your left, you know, keep your line here, stay here. You know, they should be having somebody on the pit wall doing for the F1 drivers, saying like, okay, this guy's coming up ahead, like, you know, keep to the right. You know, I don't know why they don't. Like, I don't understand. I don't know. But I think it's just like, you know, that could be a solution, or we just need to figure out a better way to do the qualifying format.
Yeah.
Like, we need to maybe we need to impose some rules that, like, when you go out, like, you know, maybe they do a thing where you have to complete your warm-up lap within a certain amount of time, you know, so that by the time you're ready to actually do your hot lap, it's like you're passing like the end of the last sector or something at a certain time delta to do it, to prevent people from being too slow or blocking other people, you know, things of that nature. Or maybe, like you said, like we were suggesting too, like you send somebody out, right? And then as soon as they start their hot lap, you send the next guy out. And as soon as they start their hot lap, you send the next person out. You know, just do it sequentially like that. It might take a little longer, but, you know, qualifying session's not that long, you know? I mean, I don't know. But like, either way, I mean, Ferrari would probably find a way to screw that up too. So if we're being honest.
I just think it's a mega communications issue, right? So to everyone who was saying that Matteo Binotto was the issue, get him out of there, right? Those are the same people that said Maurizio Arrivabene is an issue, get him out of there. And here we are again, right? So are we going to chalk this up to being Fred Vasseur? I mean, the guy just got there, so I don't think he can have any real impact just yet, right? Like, it's going to take time for his culture and for his desires to kind of sink into the ground level, right? But maybe he won't be able to have that kind of impact and effect on the team, right? Because maybe this is coming from up higher. I don't see Ferrari winning anything anytime soon until they get these communication issues. And if anything outside of F1 is to be trusted, like the news that you're seeing circulating around, like what's going on with the Ferrari company and family, it just seems like there's so much drama going on there that them having like a competent, and I don't want to say competent because that might be seen as, you know, insulting towards the F1 team, but just a team that is like cohesive and consistent and is on the same page, I think is what's lacking there, right? Maybe you have really talented people to the team, but maybe they're all pulling in 20 different directions, right? And you're never going to get anywhere if you're doing that, right? You need to have a nice concerted, directed effort and, you know, just a focused place to put your energy for them to succeed. I mean, they just won Le Mans a couple weeks ago, right?
Right.
Like that's a different team, but I think there, they probably had a team, like a small team that was constructed, that was focused on just winning Le Mans, right?
Right.
And that's what they were about. They were going to do that one event. Let's nail it, right? And they nailed it. They won.
Right. Well, as people have pointed out to me on the internet multiple times. Well, actually, those people were from Ferrari originally, and they moved over to that team. And so, yes, I understand that. And what I'm saying is bring those people back because they are apparently the ones who are winning races. So, swap them, do something, have them a conference. Here's something I just wanted to read really quick. This is Charles Leclerc talking about when he was asked about whether or not the idea of switching to slicks from Ferrari and like what had happened. He said, there was no risk taken whatsoever. For some reason, the team decided otherwise. That's it. I think we are just making our life way too difficult. And in those situations, I had a clear opinion. And we decided to do something else, so I am frustrated. Like, I really just do not think that they are listening to him. I think that they think they know better. And it's like, dude, you got to take his opinion into consideration because
absolutely,
he's the one that's out there actually driving the freaking car. So,
yeah. How much longer do you give Charles at Ferrari?
Oh my God. I think that, I mean, honestly, at this point, I would not be surprised if he leaves in silly season.
Really?
Yeah.
This year?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think if he's going to give it, I'm going to give him one more year. If I have, I'll give him a half a year. Like another,
wow.
You know what I mean? Like if I think things don't improve by mid-season next season, if he makes it through this season, I think he'll look for something else.
Wow.
I also get really frustrated though that people are predicating this on Alonso retiring, and I'm just like, dude, this guy's not going to retire unless
he's not.
He's not going to retire. I'm just saying, that is not a guaranteed seat. Even though we should talk about which we have not talked about because it's the Canadian Grand Prix, and we didn't even talk about Lance Stroll.
Oh yeah,
which honestly, like, he got penalized for impeding. He started 16th, and I'm pretty sure he finished. What did he finish?
He finished in the points. He finished
in the points.
Yeah, he finished P9. But again, that was Norris getting bumped down, so he was originally P10.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Man, I just I think if I was an owner of Aston Martin, I would just be like, dude, I'm sorry. Because you saw Russell was right up there with Lewis. Both the McLarens were together. Both the Ferraris were together. I mean, Perez was not up with Red Bull, which, I mean, I was a little confused. I don't know what happened with Perez. I thought he was going to be fighting through the crowd a little bit.
Yeah, just another bad weekend.
Just a bad weekend for him. But even still, he was only maybe 4 or 5 places away from where Max finished out. If you are more than 10 places, or I would say if you're more than maybe 6, 7 or 8 places away from your teammate consistently below them, man, that's a problem. Because clearly the Aston Martin is capable of winning. What is Lance doing? Is it just not? Did he just not fit the car? You look at the same with Williams. You look at Albon. Albon was up in P7. I mean, I know Logan had that mechanical problem, but even in races where he finished the race, he was not near his teammate. And
Logan doesn't share data with his teammates.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. He doesn't talk to Alex Albon ever before a race about anything. So, maybe that's just on him.
Yeah, that's courtesy of the Beyond the Grid podcast.
Right.
Logan Sargent's episode's really good. Also, so as we're talking about Aston Martin, I do want to put a plug in for the Beyond the Grid podcast again. Great episode that they have with Tom Clarkson sits down and interviews Lawrence Stroll. I'm going to say it right here, and this is kind of going into our vibe check a bit. Aston Martin is absolutely going to win a title in the next few years. I think they're the next big thing.
I agree.
100%.
I agree.
They have all the pieces are there.
Yeah.
They just have to put together the Gundam in the right way.
Right.
And
well, they got to hold out too. They can't give in. They can't just sell it preemptively or something.
Yeah.
Then we can get to our vibe checks. I say just to wrap up the race here really quick. Max 100th win for the Red Bull organization, which is a good milestone. Max himself matched Senna's winning record, which not something to scoff at. It's not an insignificant feat. I will say for the record though that Lewis Hamilton has 100 and
I think 101, 103, something like that.
Yeah, it's 100. Yeah, it's over 100. It's 3 digits. So he's got a lot. He's got quite a few races to really get up to that level, but he's got quite a bit along.
103.
He's got quite a long career ahead of him, so I'm sure he will, if not get close, he'll make it. Also, it was the 50th anniversary of the safety car, which debuted in 1972 or
1973. So right at the Montreal Grand Prix,
which was fascinating. And it's just, what's a coincidence? But I think, overall, I'm very proud of Alonso for getting P2. I think that was a great result for him and Aston Martin. And Mercedes, I think, has started to come back into the picture a little bit more, provided that they keep continuing this success, which I think they will. I think that Hamilton's feeling pretty optimistic, and I'm glad to see him happy and smiling again. So
absolutely.
Let's do our vibe checks.
Vibe check.
Vibe checks.
Yeah. So this was a fun race to watch. Love seeing all the last lap overtaking as everyone was ponying up on one another at the last second there. It was so great. They were capitalizing on all the work they had built during the race, right? And it all was coming together where just trading blows last second and overtaking left and right. Norris almost had Ocon there at the end, but wasn't able to do it because of that wobbly spoiler, but that's another conversation.
Wobble, baby, wobble.
Again, another star-studded podium. Love to see it. Aaliyah, she had it right when she said AJ number to number, because you have Lewis up there. I think he's 37. Fernando, 38. Okay, Fernando's up there. I think he's 41, 42. Okay, 41. And those are goats of the sport. Like the F1 Instagram, they posted an image of the three drivers on the podium, along with Adrian Newey, who was up there to take the constructors trophy for Red Bull. And those four people right there, Adrian Newey, Fernando Alonso, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, that is literally the Mount Rushmore of modern day Formula One. And that is so cool to see. And we should all take a moment and just appreciate what we're watching, because who knows how long it'll be, if first off we'll ever see this podium again, right? I feel we will, the season, given what they've been doing. But if we're gonna see this caliber of a podium again in the near future, right? After Lewis retires, after Alonso retires, after Verstappen steps away from the sport, just because between those three, right, there's 11 championships, right? There's 100, probably almost 200 wins, right? All these podiums, it's just insane. So appreciate greatness when you see it in front of you, and just admire it and just say, this is so cool that we have this. Excellent. Love seeing Lewis and Fernando go at it again. They're just trading barbs left and right. They're even giving some fun jabs in the media, right? Post race during the interview session. I think Lewis is making fun of. They're having fun with it. Lewis is making fun of how old Fernando is, but it's good to see, right? It's all kind of in good fun. Checo, the other Red Bull driver, he needs to regroup. I love Checo. I really do like Checo. He needs to regroup, I think, and come back swinging after the summer break. I don't know what's going on. Maybe a little bit of a confidence hit, because these last 3 race weekends have not been super stellar. FIA, you need to start showing the black and orange flag more frequently. I don't know if that decision should be up to the teams, because the teams will never make the call, right? They'll never make the call and say, stop them, right? That was so unsafe with the spoiler structure on Ocon's car just wobbling like that. That could have been really, really dangerous. And the craziest thing, right, is people would say, oh, well, nothing happened. Okay, sure, nothing happened. But if something did happen, if someone had died, then we would be saying the other thing of, why didn't you stop them, right?
Yeah. I think they should have them pull in for a consultation, almost like a weighbridge sort of thing. And they should have officials checking the component and maybe doing a measurement to have something that will test the strength tolerance of the particular part's movement. So it's if it requires a certain amount of force in order to move it in any one particular direction, then it would be, labeled as being viable or not.
Right.
I agree. I echo all of your sentiments with Alonso and Hamilton. I think that definitely needs some changes for the qualifying. I think Max was lucky that Alonso had some brake problems. Because I think that if Alonso's car was tip top, he probably would have caught him, because they were staying pretty close. It was not an insurmountable gap, but I think that they were both struggling. Alonso was doing a lot of lift and coast. I also think that we are definitely witnessing something special. I do genuinely think that this season will not be remembered for a Red Bull dominance.
Right.
I think it's going to be remembered for a Aston Martin assert.
Yes.
Like, I think it's going to be the season that people remember the Alonso podiums, because that's what people talk about. And like, it's so weird to think about it, because it's like we've gone through periods of dominance before and we talk about those periods of dominance, but like, this is just so special to see somebody of, you know, Alonso's age and race history just after years of not, I mean, because like Michael Schumacher left and came back into Mercedes, and I think everybody was expecting him to get podiums in Mercedes, and he got a couple. I think he got like one win or so. Yeah. But I mean, this is really intense from Alonso. I mean, it's consistent and it's there every time. So I think that's what this season is going to be remembered more for, is not Max winning everything. It's going to it's going to be Mercedes picking up the pieces again, and it's going to be the rise of Aston Martin. I would not be surprised if within the next year or so we get Mercedes versus Aston Martin championship. I think that's a definite possibility.
Over Red Bull? You think Red Bull is going to kind of drop the ball?
I would not be surprised. Not to say that they are going to, but I could imagine some internal politics or some shakeup happening. I could imagine Adrian Newey retiring, and then them just not being able to produce a car that was going to be dominant again. Sure. So there's all these possibilities. Like I always say, like, go back and watch that 2011 Montreal Grand Prix, and you will change your perspective on what could be possible in a race weekend, because you just think that you know what's going to happen, and then literally last lap, couple corners back, Vettel makes a mistake and just passes and gets the win. So like, you never know what's going to happen. I was even saying, like, up until the last lap, I'm just thinking, is Max going to hit the wall? Is his car going to shut down? Something going to happen? Is he going to make a mistake? It's not impossible. It could happen. You know,
that's true.
He's not a Terminator. He's still a human being. You know, who looks like Sid from Ice Age. So, hey man, Red Bull was putting the filter on his face. They're self-aware. That is fair game.
Oh my god, I didn't see that.
Yeah. They had him put the filter on. Like they're self-aware.
Oh man, that's funny. That's funny.
They know. Well, yeah. Do you have any final thoughts about the race, Idris, that you want to party words?
Nah, nothing else. It was a fun race. It was really fun to watch, and looking forward to the next weekend.
Ooh, yes, Austria, right?
Yes.
Oh, one of my favorite tracks. I absolutely love Austria. I'm super stoked for that. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to F1 or F Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to hit us up, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and Twitter, all at F1 or F Off. Or you can email us at F1 or F Off podcast at gmail.com. Please give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe on our YouTube. It really helps us out a lot. We really want to know who's listening, and we want to know how we're doing from everybody. It would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Share it with your family and friends. It's accessible everywhere. Any place you get podcasts, it's up on YouTube. I know a lot of people were, like, say they only listen to their podcasts on YouTube, and like, hey, we're there now. So we can use the love there.
Absolutely.
Even if you just play it in the background, just put it on mute, get us some views. we gotta cheat the system. There's gonna be Red Bull for just this one thing.
Oh man. Yep.
Well, thanks everybody. Bye.